Welcome to Northern Wild Harvest. If you're new to our channel, we do large-scale adventure foraging in remote wilderness locations across Canada. If you're a returning viewer, then welcome back. Thanks for being here. This video marks the start of another morel harvesting adventure, and this season is going to be a wild one. Over the next week, we'll be traveling from the US-Canada border all the way to the Yukon territory, a more than 3,000 kilometer journey, all in search of wild morel mushrooms. If you don't already know, morels flourish the spring following a wildfire, and this year we've targeted more than half a dozen fires in the Yukon Territory wilderness of northwest Canada. I'm joined by my father, Randy, a longtime harvester with over 35 years experience working in the bush, and with us will be Alex, a close friend and core member of our group. We've been harvesting together since we were kids, and have spent more than a decade hunting wildfires along with the final member of this year's crew, Alec, a natural bushman and all-around good guy. Leading up to the season, we have spent many hours satellite scouting last year's burns to narrow down what is viable for harvesting morels. We have chosen more than a dozen wildfires that are reasonable to access and that have the right topography and tree species to potentially produce morels. They're scattered across the Yukon, so there's a good chance that we'll need to be mobile throughout the season as it progresses. Over the next couple of episodes, we plan to document our journey through the entirety of British Columbia and then far into the Yukon, as we make our way to the first target wildfires. As we road trip to the northern wilderness of Canada, we want to showcase the beautiful scenery and share some pieces of history as we travel. We hope this gets across the scale of how far we often journey in order to find the patches that we've shown on our channel in the past. Join us for the start of another adventure as we do our best to take you along with us and give you a window into the amazing world of wild harvesting. Okay, it's 2 a.m. here in southern British Columbia, Canada, Vancouver Island. We're all packed up, about to hit the road. Randy and I are going to be meeting up with Alec and Alex within the hour, and we'll start our journey all the way to the Yukon. So the trailer's completely full, packed right up, wood stove in there and everything. The truck is completely full, and the roof rack's got a canoe and all the wood stove building materials on there. So we got a full load here this year. Woo! Good morning, pal. Our convoy is ready to go. After meeting up on the North Island near the town of Campbell River, one of the salmon capitals of the world, we set off towards the small city of Nanaimo to take the ferry across the Georgia Strait to the lower mainland. Nanaimo is Vancouver Island's second largest city. Founded in 1852, it is known as the Harbor City, and it is one of the main gateways off the island to the city of Vancouver.
Yes.
Okay, so 21840.
Yep. Cheers.
I spilled my coffee earlier. I need to get a coffee.
Leaving Vancouver Island for Vancouver and points north to the Yukon. We're going north of 60 and we're taking you with us. BC, Canada, eh?
I knew it was coming.
taken this boat ride countless times, but each and every trip we are in awe of BC's Gulf Islands and coastal mountains as we sail across the strait. We've elected to take the lesser traveled ferry from Duke Point to Tsawwassen. This allows us to bypass the heavy traffic in downtown Vancouver as we head east through the Fraser Valley. Although Vancouver is not the capital of British Columbia, it is by far the largest city in the province, so avoiding it will save time and allow us to make further headway on the first day of our journey.
It's a little bit windy up here.
As we escape the buzz of Metro Vancouver and travel through the Fraser Valley, we see some of Western Canada's richest farmland on our way towards the mountain town of Hope, BC. The Fraser Valley hosts the final stretches of BC's longest river, the Fraser River. This mighty waterway snakes its way through the province from the Rocky Mountains to the southern coast for nearly 1,400 kilometers or 900 miles before entering the ocean in the lower mainland. Considered some of the world's best salmon fishing, it is also host to sturgeon and steelhead trout, and has held a central role for industry in modern times, as well as being the lifeblood of many communities pre- and post-colonial era.
Glad to be out of the big smoke.
We're gonna be dodging traffic, floods, forest fires.
Bananas.
As we travel through the upper Fraser Valley and it begins to narrow, we come to the small town of Hope, BC at the confluence of the mighty Fraser and the Coquihalla rivers. This town is a gateway between the mountains and the coastal lowlands, and it was a hub during the Fraser Canyon gold rush in the mid-1800s. It's located on the traditional territory of the Stolo people, who have been here for nearly 10,000 years. We've left the Fraser Valley. Now we're headed right into the mountains here at Hope. There's a lot of construction and environmental hazards going on right now in BC because we've had an early heat wave, so it's brought on a lot of flooding. Are you feeling hopeful?
Yeah, we are.
Experience hope. What a slogan. Rivers have always been at the center of human activity here in BC, so let's take a moment to admire the majesty of the mighty Fraser as we pass over during the start of the high water snowmelt and head deeper into the Fraser Canyon.
look down the bank over here. And I guess people chuck stuff over the bank. Not good. There's a squirrel fan. Can you see it? That's pretty funny.
As we transition from coast to mountain to a wild western landscape, we feel the geography change while traveling out of reach of the coastal humidity. We spent some time here prior to our 2021 morel season, which you can see on our channel, harvesting ponderosa pine pollen. Only a couple months after our time in this area, a period of extended 40-degree record temperatures and dry weather, along with high winds, caused a wildfire to get out of control, and it tragically swept through the small community of Lytton, BC. A devastating event that we could not believe occurred so soon after spending time in this beautiful area. So we're just starting to enter the part of BC that is partial desert. You can see the old train rolling on the tracks down there. And I think it's almost time to stop for lunch. What do you think?
Yeah, maybe get out the gold pans.
All right, lunchtime. Heading through the heart of the Fraser Canyon along the rushing Thompson River, we have stopped for lunch at the Gold Pan Campground. Surrounded by railway, this historic spot features one of the many examples of the extreme challenges that went into constructing the Canadian Pacific Railway in the late 1800s. The remarkable size and speed of construction is mind-blowing even by today's standards. And some of the rugged environments where the track was laid only adds to the feat of connecting North America from east to west coast. Although construction of the railway is rather controversial, it's still amazing to see it operational to this day. So here we've got a ponderosa pine tree. They're just a beautiful species of pine. They've got this slightly orange color on their bark. And we harvest the catkins on these for their pollen. And so this is what they look like. These ones are a little too old to harvest, so they've already released most of their pollen. That pollen is fine, but ideally you harvest them right before they start opening up. These ones are a little far gone. Real hot and dry out here. Town of Cache Creek, way down there. And we've got some backed up traffic here because they've had some major flooding. So the flooding that happened in this town over the last week is quite severe. Nearly washed out an entire parking lot right downtown. The river that flooded is the Bonaparte River. And that's the next river over from where we were picking in our season last year. So it's all the same sort of water source from that zone in the province here. If it had flooded like this last season, we may have not been able to get to the patch we were in. So on this hillside up behind these trees here, you can see an old wildfire. This wildfire was one that we actually harvested on years ago. There is the old burn. And in this area, it takes a lot longer to regenerate because it's just so dry here. Leaving the Fraser Canyon, we are finally starting to travel north. Entering BC's ranch lands, we've decided to stop in the small town of Clinton, BC to check out one of the town's hidden gems. This antique emporium is full of both hidden treasures and useless junk. In the past, we have found some interesting items buried in the piles of old rusted metal that lay about the shop.
Oh, look at those. Those are my pick and shears. Pick some big morels.
Oh, there you go. That's the back-saving morel picker. So you can just stay standing and you can pick your morels.
Hey Randy, you need this for picking morels.
That's a pulp. This is a...
This place just has some really cool stuff. And it's because it's where all the leftover farm junk from this ranch area in British Columbia here gets basically deposited. So here's the saddle room. Big collection of them here. solid steel anvil. $1,200 of steel. Cool. Forging tools. And a forge blower. We've talked about mounting one of these on a fire pit as a novelty. You crank that, sends the air through a fan blades in there out the end here. Well, that place has a whole lot of cool stuff, but we don't have much room in the truck. We need to get back on the road. But it's always cool to hop in there and take a look around. And now we can hit the road again and drive another few hundred kilometers before it gets dark. Our next location of note is 70 Mile House, one of the many Mile House locations in this section of British Columbia. Their name is derived from their distance from the start of the old Caribou Road. During the 1800s, this was a well-traveled wagon route, and along it popped up many roadhouses which later became landmarks, or in some cases towns. 70 Mile. Oh, there's 76 Mile. 83 Mile. Oh, there goes 90 Mile. And there's the 94 Mile Hotel on the old Caribou Road. And now we're entering the largest of the remaining mile houses, 100 Mile House. This place has actually become a town. And here comes 108 Mile. We're starting to see some sudden smoke in the air. Wondering if we're going to pass by a sudden forest fire here.
Are you on fire?
Yeah, we got a small fire burning here, Alex. You can see it here. This fire was caused by a large old Douglas fir tree falling on the power lines, and then the power lines catching the brush on fire. So, fire crews caught it before it was an issue, and they're all over it. That thing will be out within the next 10 minutes probably. But that's how they start sometimes. So here's some more smoky skies in interior British Columbia here. We're just south of Williams Lake, BC. And as we travel north here, we're seeing more and more wildfire smoke. Following Highway 97, about halfway up what was the old Caribou Road, we pass through the town of Williams Lake. Although we'll be continuing north on our current journey, this town is located at the junction of Highway 97 and Highway 20. If we were to head west down Highway 20, it would take us into an area known as the Chilcotin Plateau, a section of semi-desert highlands in the heart of British Columbia. Another example of BC's diverse geography, which features rugged mountains, beautiful coastline, and desert highlands. But our heading is to the north.
Continue on British Columbia 97 north for 2 kilometers.
Look at the cost of our fuel here. And that's cheaper in most places. Alright, we've arrived at our campground for the night. So we're just going to stay at a provincial park here because we're still sort of in the populated part of BC. And we've been on the road since 2 a.m. and it's now 7 p.m. So it was over 1,000 kilometers today. It is smoky skies here just north of Quesnel, BC. And I'll show you what the sun looks like right now. The sun is still up. And it's that orange ball right there because there's so much smoke in the sky. Morning of day 2. A little after 6 a.m. here. We've packed up our nylon houses for the night and we're just about ready to hit the road again. And pretty soon here, we'll be getting into the real wilderness areas of northern Canada. We actually slept in a little bit today because we did that 16 hours approximately of road time yesterday. We were working off of about 1 to 2 hours of sleep. I was actually up editing videos until midnight the night before leaving yesterday. So getting a good sleep last night really helped, and I'm really excited for today. So Alec had a nice buddy overnight. He had this little toad under his tent.
I don't know, can be that.
As we enter Prince George, the hub of the north, we have a decision to make. There are 2 major routes to the Yukon from here. We have to choose between the Alaska Highway or the Cassiar Highway. And we know from experience that this time of year, the Cassiar is still prone to snow and lack of maintenance. We decide to take the well-paved Alaska Highway on our trip to the Yukon. But we have a plan to take the more rustic Cassiar on our way home once our trip is over. Prince George is one of the last major towns we will pass through on our route north. From here forward, we are entering a portion of BC that is a lot less populated and a lot more wild. So after all this traveling, we've just crossed over the Fraser River again, all the way up here. It's a very long river. Are you hungry? Thank you. So we've stopped at Grandma's Kitchen for lunch. Probably some of the last food we'll have in civilization for a while, so took our chance to enjoy it.
Real breakfast.
The gateway to the north. Heading north from Prince George, we cover a vast stretch of land with few towns or settlements. Although we only left BC's northern hub city recently, the scale of wilderness that British Columbia holds always starts to set in around this part of the drive.
We are leaving Prince George and we're heading to Fort Nelson. Woohoo! There's a bear.
We're standing at the turnoff to the remote town of Mackenzie, located at the southeast side of Williston Lake. Its geographical location puts it in the center of BC's largest wilderness area. Williston Lake was created in 1968 after the construction of the Bennett Dam along the Upper Peace River. This flooded territorial home of the Tse-Ke-Dene First Nation is now the 7th largest freshwater reserve in the world and the largest lake by volume in BC. Many Indigenous communities were displaced during the flooding, but a number of small settlements still exist along the lake to this day. Most of them are accessible only by plane, apart from Mackenzie, which can be reached by this road. Today we are staying on the main highway as we make our way through the small town of Chetwynd, BC. The next step is to pass over a shallow spot in the Rocky Mountains, between the Rocky Mountains and the Northern Rocky Mountains.
Halfway through day 2 and we're on our way to Hudson's Hope and Chetwynd, and we're gonna go past Fort St. John and coming to you from the second car in the convoy. So you might not be able to tell, but those are some big mountains. Let's see if we can get a view of the one covered in snow in the background over here. Wait, right up here.
It's still cold up here. There's still snow on most of the ground in patches, and the leaves are just starting. Look at this beautiful wall of mountains here. Man, so on that side is the Rocky Mountains. And if you keep going this way, you'll hit another large hill that goes up. And that's the start of the Northern Rockies. So we're right in that pass. And it's just amazing. This is like this huge wall of stone. And it's basically the end of the Central Rockies. It just drops down here before the beginning of the Northern Rockies like this. We're heading east right now. You can see here we're just entering the Peace River Regional District. We're now descending onto the eastern side of the Rocky Mountains. As we travel through these grand stretches of wilderness, climbing our way north, we see the tree leaves of these deciduous trees are weeks behind in their annual cycle compared to Vancouver Island or in the foothills below the mountains. We are passing through a relatively mellow section of the Rockies, heading east while we go through this summit pass. This area has only just escaped the grass of winter, where it would have been covered by a thick snowpack only weeks ago. Beauty, eh? So you can see already as we come down from the Rockies on this side, the environment is noticeably different. There is still lots of evergreen conifer trees, but there's a lot more deciduous mix. A lot of black cottonwood and trembling aspen here. So we're in the Peace Foothills. Right now we're here. Here's the big dam I was mentioning, and the big lake would come up through here if there was more map. Here's Chetwynd. We're going to be taking this highway past Hudson Hope to Fort St. John, and there's some active wildfires happening right now, right around here, so we'll have to see how we get through there. Now, years ago, I was mentioning we did a fire down here, and the fire we did was you drove down past Tumbler Ridge to here, and then you took a dirt road 70 or 80 kilometers past there, right into the bush, and this is already remote. So this was a beautiful area down here. It had these incredible cliff hiking areas. A lot of the hills would have cliffs like this. We were picking morels on the tops of these. And then there was these great waterfalls. They were beautiful. And then that area is known for its dinosaur fossils. And here's an example in their little museum of what they found in that region.
Welcome to your coffee, ma'am. I'm doing a tea.
Yeah.
Black tea.
Sure.
Black tea?
Black tea.
Cool.
Thank you. Nice valley, eh?
Mm-hmm, beautiful.
Although the spring is further behind right now, it'll soon change to summer. In the Yukon, the spring is very short because of its geographical location. During the summer solstice in late June, only a little over a month from now, it will be more than 24 hours of daylight. We have this thought in our minds as we pass through this cold weather towards the land of the midnight sun.
How's it going?
Good. The Yukon in 2 days.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The Peace River.
See the dam that
Oh no, I didn't. Phil probably got that.
Oh, damn it.
You can cut that out. Yeah, you better cut that out, Phil. Beautiful sights that you see on the road.
We have arrived in the small town of Chetwynd, another hub location with highways branching in many directions. We are taking the route towards Hudson's Hope this year. which will continue to the Alaska Highway soon afterwards. Years ago, we took the road south from here, where we spent more than 60 days harvesting morels from a wildfire far into the bush, around 150 kilometers south of the remote town of Tumbler Ridge. This area of BC borders the eastern side of the Rocky Mountains, where the foothills open up to the northern Albertan prairies. With our sights set on the Yukon this season, we will instead be skirting the edge of the northern Rockies before heading through the summit to Muncho Lake by tomorrow.
As you can tell at this point in the video, we're only on day 2. We'll be going for a lot longer to get up there, so it's a lot of time and money, and it's a big risk. You know, if we go up there and there's no mushrooms, well, then we spent a heck of a lot and didn't make anything. So these are all things to consider. Gonna do it anyways.
We're passing by the small logging community of Hudson's Hope, situated at the start of the Peace River. The large dam which created Williston Lake in the late 1960s is located here, and is a major part of the small community. There is a large wildfire not far to the west of us, which burned last year. It was a serious consideration for harvesting morels this season, but we expect there will be a lot more competition on this fire, since it's one of the few viable fires in BC for morel harvesting this year. The steep grade of the hills and the bogland are familiar to us, will probably produce in some spots, but we've elected to travel further so we can showcase to you the beauty of the Yukon territory during the solstice month.
We're on the Alaska Highway. Make sure you guys take a left, signs to Fort Nelson on the Alaska Highway. So here's a little spot fire that just burned. It got into the willows and small trembling aspen here, and they got it under control, so it's out now. That's part of where all the smoke's coming from, but that's a very small part of it. So we're coming up to a fire. I was just reading the news report. It was burning yesterday. It jumped the highway in the last 2 days, and it's already burned over 200 square kilometers. So that's where a lot of the smoke we've been seeing is coming from over the last 24 hours. So we'll see how bad it is as we drive through here. If we tried to come through a day and a half ago, we probably would have had to wait because the highway was temporarily limited. There's a Canadian site, a moose crossing sign. Now the way this has worked out is it's getting kind of late in the day already here, and we're gonna have to stop probably in the next 3 or 4 hours. And so we're hoping to make it past all of the bulk of this smoke, because we don't want to camp in this. You can probably hear, but our throats are already getting kind of sore just from breathing in the smoke while in the truck here. So it'd be nice if we can get a little ways out of the smoke before setting up our tents for the night. Forest firefighters right there, and this is all burnt. You can see here the grass all burnt away on both sides here. Look how smoky that is. You can see it, actually there's some fire still smoldering. You can see it's burning through the brush right there.
Fire assessment.
Still smoldering. It's very smoky though. After a while you start to get a little bit of a headache from this much smoke.
Better route available.
Now, in case you're wondering why we're driving this way right through the fires, it's not to scout these fires. We probably wouldn't harvest a fire in this area. It's because the way around is 800 kilometers the other direction. Over that way I can see plumes of smoke coming up right there. So here we've got a bulldozer on standby, and then a water depot. And there's a fire break going into the bush there to the active fire. That's how smoky it is. That's the sun. And windshield is covered in mosquitoes. So the smoke isn't getting any better, so we're going to pull over
have some food, have some coffee and water, and then carry on until we hopefully drive out of the smoke. Have some food?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Oh. Welcome to the club.
Who's going in first?
How's your sandwich? Smoky.
Canadian smoked meat, eh?
So we're on the south end of the Alaska Highway now, and this road just keeps going and going and going. Coffee.
Road coffee, eh? High test.
Kind of nice though, it has these big grassy shoulders so you can see the wildlife, because we're in the region of northern BC now that is the most densely populated with wildlife, so it's great. You can see them before they're on the road.
When was the last time you were on the Alaska Highway?
3 years ago I did a season in the Yukon. So here's what the smoke is going to do over the next 12 to 24 hours. And our road is right through the middle of it, that dark spot. So it's going to like basically chase us for the next few hours here. So this is a common thing in northern Canada. All over the truck is mosquitoes.
I think that's the stuff.
We had planned to end today's journey at the Sakani Chief River, but because of the forest fire smoke, we were forced to continue driving into the night. We're passing through Prophet River, BC. It's located in the traditional territory of the Dune-Za First Nation. On this stretch of highway, it's good practice to fill your fuel tanks every chance you get, because if a pump is down, it can be a long way to the next one.
Another bear.
Bear number 9. Another bear right there.
Bear number 10.
And that was about 30 seconds from the last bear. 10. Brave little guy. There goes. That's the 11th one so far. Another bear. It's like somebody burnt their popcorn out there. 2 bears right there at once, hanging out together. Just grazing. Oh, and there's another 2 bears? Yeah. Or another 1 bear. So that's another 3 for the tally. You don't want to camp there. Hey, Smokey the bear. Another bear. Number 16. So we've been on the Alaska Highway for about 200 kilometers now. And this is the main road from the States, from the United States to Alaska through Canada. We're one of the only vehicles on this stretch of road at the moment. So in the last 200 kilometers, we've maybe seen half a dozen vehicles. Most of them were Forest Service vehicles. So we're kind of all alone out here right now.
Us in the smoke.
Yeah, just hanging out in the smoke. So we're probably going to keep driving until dark, basically, and try to get to a location called Steamboat. Hopefully we can get there by about 11 p.m. Taking a detour into the town of Fort Nelson, BC, we decide to do our last resupply for the foreseeable future. After this point, we'll start climbing an elevation to pass through the Great Northern Rockies. Trying to pump gas here, and there's mosquitoes all over me, swarming me. Think that's funny, eh? Oh my God, look at them all. Look at them all. You getting bit? Mosquitoes. Well, we had hoped to stop about an hour and a half ago or 2 hours ago, but we couldn't because of the severe smoke. So now it's dark on us, and we're getting close to the mountains. So we're just looking for the first spot we can find to spend the night, get some sleep. And it might end up being just a pull-out on the side of the road tonight. And the road's narrow with big shoulders, and there's no road lines. Oh, and there's a bear. We were trying to avoid doing this section of road in the dark, but it's just how it worked out, unfortunately. So we're in the middle of nowhere right now, but we're about to enter a small mountain pass, and this road is quite narrow, so we ideally don't want to camp here at this pullout, but we think it's safer to do that than to try to do the mountain pass after a long day of driving. And we'll probably just camp right here. It's a big wide pullout. The road's like way over there. So we've got a little bit of space, but not ideal. Not very many people travel this road at night, so we'll probably have a few vehicles go by all night, most likely. Here's tonight's roadside camp.
Thanks for watching episode 1 of our 2023 Morel season. We'll be continuing our journey north in the following episodes, so stay tuned. If you enjoyed the video, consider liking and subscribing or drop a comment below. You can also find our products over on our online store, which is linked in the description of the video. See you next time, everybody.